rates. And I think, and it was alluded to last night, Finner did a lot of things that perhaps some other head coaches don't quite do to quite the same extent. I'm talking about interface with the owner and everything else. Finner took a lot of that on board himself, and as I say, whoever comes in next will probably have to do the same thing. So, big shoes to fill, absolutely no doubt about it. I really just hope we're not in a position where we look back and think, yeah, we should have kept him. Time will tell.
Do you know, it's kind of ironic for me, and I was looking back and just refreshing my memory about previous seasons. The highest we finished in the first 3 years before Ryan Finnerty arrived was 5th. The lowest we finished in Ryan Finnerty's tenure is 5th. He took us to 5th in his first season, but in that season he also took us to the playoff final weekend, which is the only time we've ever done it. And the second season was probably the most enjoyable season as a Clan fan, when we just missed out on the league, and obviously there was a disappointing loss to Hull in the playoffs, but that triggered us going to the CHL, and everybody's got a chance now for that year to go over to Sweden or to go over to Germany. And I took the chance and I went over to watch the game in Ingolstadt. It's something I'll never forget. That season we also finished 3rd. This season we're back to 5th again. When I look at the numbers as plain and simple as that, I think, okay, this season's not been enjoyable. It's been a far cry from season 5 and even season 6. We had problems with recruitment for day one, with Jeff Ulmer not producing the goods. We had problems with whatever reason. You hear rumours, we're not going to go into it with Trevor Hendricks, who was probably one of our most solid D-men at the time. I just think it's been one unlucky season. And okay, you can point to each playoff quarter-final loss, Hull, Fife, Dundee, and say that was the straws that broke the camel's back. But I still think we're maybe being a bit quick to judge. I'm not being hypocritical. I had never at any point this season called for him to go. I don't think, I'm still not of the opinion that he maybe should have went. I think, you're saying, Graham, we maybe had to do it to move forward. If we're replacing him with another EIHL retread, then we're not moving any further forward, because there's nobody out there that's probably, people will argue about, the obvious name, whether you could argue he's better or not, but there's nobody really else out there. If the Clan are going to move forward with this, then they have to get something out of the box completely, and I know that's one of the things that you talked about with Murph last night. I just feel, thank you, Ryan Finnerty, thank you for giving us some of the most enjoyable hockey. To me, the team in season 5 that went so close was the closest to the Ryan Finnerty team that I think we were going to get. We pinched Stephen Meyer for Sheffield, we pinched Lee Salters for Nottingham, Matt Keith, Zach Fitzgerald, Neil Trim, Scott Pitt, Fritsch, Ben Davis, who you could argue was the first time we'd had a real top-line Brit in our team. Zach Sullivan was added that year as well, and we already had Scott Arson and Chris Frank, who came here probably because Ryan Finnerty was here. That was a magical season and a magical team, and I will always remember that as our best season to date, and he gave that to us, and that was a far cry from the teams we'd had in the first few seasons, and I know that we were organically growing at the time and we had more resources and stuff, but I still think he had another few seasons left in him, and I would have been interested to see how he got on. I think you're right, Graham, in terms of the structure of the club probably doesn't help the head coach, in terms of we don't have a kind of GM as we're led to believe. It's a kind of two-pronged thing, commercial hockey director thing. I don't know if that works or not. I don't know if that makes it harder for the coach to deal with two people rather than one. We don't know the workings of it. We can only guess, but I personally, and go against a lot of the grain, and think I would like to see them back, and I'll put my cards on the table. I would have given them what he wanted next year, and seen how it went, and see if it was just a matter of recruitment or not. And you look at the games we lost to Hull, that was an overtime loss. The game to Fife was an overtime loss. This one against Dundee was different, but to me, Raymond, it was just indicative of the season. Have I got rose-tinted specs on here?
Well, I think a wee bit, but we're fans, so it's natural that we will for certain things. Just to play a bit of devil's advocate, when you look at the track record through the 4 seasons, it's one two-legged victory out of, I don't know, a dozen, 16, and that's going to be the outlier. Whether it is our fans or if it's going to be fans out with the club, and I appreciate as well there are some fans that determine success by trophies won, and by what Graham was saying earlier, I don't just mean Gardner Conference trophies, and he has been a bit of a hard luck story in that regard, and it's not fair that he's going to be sort of associated with that, because I'm the same as well. I would have loved him to just get the one, whether it was a playoff or a league title or whatever. It wouldn't have mattered to me. I would have liked to have seen him do it, because he did put in a hell of a lot of work over these past 4 seasons, and I think for some people it'll be a case of, well, you won't truly appreciate something until it's gone, because I know for a fact he does a lot of stuff in the background that you won't necessarily see. And
I'd like to reiterate that I've been lucky enough to find out a few things he's been doing in the background that you can't talk about, that people will never talk about, and you know, the next coach might not very well do that. Raymond, you're spot on. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, it's okay. Obviously, I had my wee piece the other night as well, so I won't go on for much longer. But certainly for me, part of what the metric I use for success is the club better for Ryan Finnerty having been here? And I thought, well, for the day one he came and the day that he's left, I think we've moved up leaps and bounds, and he's raised the expectation bars so high that any successor that follows him is going to have to, at the very least, match it, but probably they're going to have to better it, and they're going to have to do so consistently, or they won't last even half as long as he did.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, when Ryan came into the team to take over, you know, he was here for 4 years. At the point he arrived, we'd already had 5 coaches in 3 years. All right, one of them never actually took the reins, and Adam Calder. He lasted 2 weeks before he decided he didn't fancy it. But you'd Adam Calder, we had Bruce Richardson, Drew Bannister, John Kristanovich and Paul Gardner. You know, and he came into a team who were growing, but were still looking for that. No disrespect to the previous guys, because, you know, what you could achieve as Bruce Richardson season 1 with a brand new team is obviously going to be much different to what the facilities and the resources would be available to you in season 4, but he brought that professionalism, that grit. You know, Glasgow loves a blue collar way of working. They love that kind of thing, and that's why I think season 5, you know, you could argue that it was maybe Frankie and Fitzgerald that maybe lost their way that season with their penalties and their bans at the end of the season, but you know, at the same time they were the guys that made that team what it was. Some of the things that we've maybe said this season, you know, we kind of want to go down that route of putting up with no nonsense. That was a team that put up with no nonsense. That was our most successful team, and that was a team that was a team to me that was built in Ryan Finnerty's image. What, you know, happened after that in season 6, still, you know, we talked about that before. There was a game where we lost Keith and Pitt in Nottingham for an extended period, just when we were getting our act together. Unlucky. And you've got to look upon it as well, Graham. For me, you know, when the Clan, we just don't have the resources to bring in that special player. No disrespect to the Tony Dalmans of this world, but that's what we're getting. And you look at some of the other teams in the top are getting guys like Vandermeer in at that point in time. And getting in, the Sheffield players kind of lost his name now, he's still there. He came
DBN.
DBN. And, you know, we were supposedly in for both of these guys, and we lost out to the bigger budget teams, you know, and we end up with guys like, no disrespect, but Tony Dalman, journeyman players who's not going to make that big a difference. We just couldn't cope with the injuries, and, you know, I don't know. I'm still sad about the thing. I'm still, you know, thinking, is it driven by protecting future revenues? I don't know. I feel as if I've said plenty here. Is there any more you want to add, Graham?
Probably not really. I mean, of course, you know, we're going to be talking about this as and when the announcement's made, whenever it's made. But, you know, the proof will be in the pudding in terms of who we take on board. I mean, we talked about it with Murph. I would like to think that we might have a serious look at a player-coach angle except for the fact of what I alluded to earlier on. I don't think we've got the management structure to back the guy up if we did go down that road, so therefore you're left looking for an experienced bench coach. I don't know. As I say, I think the legacy that Finner leaves behind will probably only be truly appreciated, over the course of the following months and maybe the next year or two. Let's face it, it's in our interest as fans of the Bay Egg Clan that Finner's era is seen as being Finner's era, and we've moved on to bigger and better things. But as we stand right now, the uncertainty over that is a bit scary, and we know, without getting into the names, but you alluded to it earlier on, there's a lot of players, an awful lot of players with Bray Clan right now and through past seasons that are only at the Clan because of Ryan Finnerty. So we need somebody who's going to be able to attract a decent calibre of players, to put it mildly. It's a hell of a big ask, and I don't know.
You can't help but feel that next year's, whoever it's going to be coming in next year, is going to have their work cut out, or later on in the year I should say now, is going to have their work cut out, because you can't help but feeling they're basically going to be starting with a handful of Brits, and that'll be about it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, with everything that's happened this past week and that, I've not really thought too much about it as of yet. But yeah, in some ways, with a new guy coming in, it could be a good thing for them. And I think certainly the Brits in that we've got, I think it's a very solid basis to start a team off of. And I'm sure if they have any say in it, they'll want to keep at least some of the imports that we had last year, namely, your usual suspects, your Pitt, Becca, Hammond, if he's going to be okay, etc. So, it's going to be, whenever it does happen, it's going to be a lot of changes. It's going to be something fresh, perhaps something to look forward to. But, as I said, to be honest, I've not thought too much about it yet, but I know we'll get to talk about it in the summer months.
Yep, and it's going to be, I think it's something that, there's no rush to appoint somebody, but the last thing you want to do is not give somebody time to build a team. And I know we've just hit April, but a lot of teams are already building for next year, looking at the players they've got and seeing who stands where. I mean, where does Gareth, how does he do that job, not knowing that his new coach is going to want any of these players back, never mind trying to find out who's coming back? It's a difficult position, and you don't want a late start, although Ryan always maintained that if you wait till closer to the end of the season, the signing season, you might pick up a few gems, and that's probably a good philosophy, but you still need to have something to build on for the start, and finding out who's coming back and who's not, who wants to come back, and can you do a deal. It's going to be an even more interesting off-season when we find out who the coach is, but as I said, I think if it's a retread, I don't know if that's particularly going to work in. Hell mend them if they finish 5th or below next season, because then that's when people will start to judge Ryan and look at him maybe in a slightly different light. I think the problem Ryan had, and we've probably already mentioned it, is just these quarter-final losses every year. Bump. That's what he's going to be remembered for by a lot of people. For me, I remember season 5. I remember going to Germany to watch them play in Ingolstadt. I remember them beating Ingolstadt at home that year. And I've remembered some of the cracking players that, we've watched during Ryan's time here. And, hopefully his successor can come in and do the same thing. I can't help but feel, Graham, that we haven't seen the last of Ryan Finnerty.
Rumour central.
We're not going into rumours, but I can't help but feel that he'll still be in this country.
Well, he suggested himself, I think, at a recent clan get-together that whatever happens, he would probably be hanging around somewhere around the EIHL. So, listen, we know what the rumours are, and I've heard another few more rumours even after last night. Every person you speak to has got a different rumour going on. I think he'll still be around in whatever capacity, and good luck to him. As I say, he's a nice guy. As I say, when you get to know him a little bit, as I've been fortunate enough to be able to do, he's a really, really good guy. And I start off as a guy who was not a fan, because I just thought he was a niggly pain in the arse when he was with Sheffield. But like a lot of people, when you get to know him a bit better, and you see his commitment, you see his passion for the game, sees passion for the clan, and that certainly came out, obviously, when he was talking last night. I mean, there was tears and everything else, and I generally don't think there were crocodile tears at all. He's really lived and breathed this club.
Yeah.
And I think, that you don't need to say that now that he's gone. I think, we've talked about it in the past, when you actually